All right, let's do this. Chuck Holton here. We are live, coming to you from my studio in Panama. And I wasn't planning on going live twice today, but sometimes things just happen, and we got to talk about them. So there is breaking news out of the White House, where the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, just had a meeting with President Donald Trump. And President Trump and Netanyahu came out and gave a press conference in which President Trump announced that we have a new hostage deal that everybody has agreed to except Hamas. And so we're going to talk about what that means and what it doesn't mean here. And I'm going to do this as quick as I can. Try not to do another whole hour here, but I want to make sure first that you all can hear me and see me. So post in the chat where you are coming from. That tells me you can hear what I'm telling you to do, and I can see it down here. There's somebody coming in from British Columbia, Canada. There's a little bit of a delay between you and me. So hopefully your sound is okay this time. Now, the dog's not here. She left. And I do have some good news for you, and that is that we have a new sponsor, and that sponsor is called Juvenon. Now, did you ever stand up and feel like your back just like applied for Social Security or something, or your knees start cracking like you stepped on a bag of Oreos or Doritos? And you're thinking, wait a second, wasn't I the guy that used to split wood all morning and then crush it all night? Yeah, but that guy didn't disappear. Your blood flow did. You can eat clean, hit the gym, and still feel like you're running on low battery, because when circulation slows down, everything slows down. That's where Blood Flow 7 from Juvenon comes in. It helps your body crank up nitric oxide, the little molecule that lets your blood vessels to know that they need to chill out and open up. And that means better circulation, more oxygen, and more energy. Basically, it's like a pre-workout, but for your entire day. When I take a pre-workout, it's to boost nitric oxide to make me better in the gym. It also has resveratrol, and that adds backup, I guess, to keep things smooth and steady. No sugar, no stimulants, so that means no crash, and just 2 capsules, and suddenly you remember what feeling like yourself actually feels like. So over 4,500 5-star reviews on this product. It's got a 60-day money-back guarantee. So try Blood Flow 7 at bloodflow7.com/hot. That's bloodflow7.com/hot. It's in the description of this video, so you can go check that out. Because when your blood's moving, you're unstoppable. Okay, now let's talk about President Trump's new simplified 21-point plan for ending the war in Gaza for good. And, I was a little skeptical, I have to say, but it actually turns out that Hamas might not have much of a choice to agree to this. But so far, according to President Trump, everybody's agreed to it except Hamas. So let's take a listen to what he had to say when he announced it. Okay, so it sounds like we've got no sound. I think they just updated the software that I use to do this, to do the podcast, and I put the new update in, and now all of a sudden the sound doesn't work on any of the videos. So I'll just have to tell you what President Trump said in his 21-point plan. It's too bad you can't hear that, because it's just quintessential President Trump. Today's a beautiful day. It's maybe the most beautiful day ever. maybe the most beautiful day in all of world history. He actually said that. And the reason is that I came up with a plan and I agreed to it. And I got Bibi Netanyahu over here to say, yeah, okay, that sounds good. And so everybody agreed to it, except for the people who actually have to agree to it. And that would be Hamas. So anyway, here's the 21 points that President Trump laid out. And it sounds pretty good. It's hopeful, okay? Number one, Gaza will be a terror-free zone and pose no threat to its neighbors. This comes from the written version of this plan that President Trump's office put out. And so I'm just sort of paraphrasing it for you to make it as simple as possible. Redevelopment of Gaza for the benefit of its people, immediate end to the war as long as both sides agree, and an Israeli withdrawal in stages, and I'll explain that a little more later. The hostages, all of them, including the dead ones and the 20 living hostages, will be released within 72 hours of Israel accepting the agreement. And that just happened. So the clock is already ticking according to this plan. So if Hamas were to agree, then we might actually see the hostages out in the next 72 hours, which would be awesome, okay? Israel agrees to a prisoner exchange. They will release 250 prisoners that are serving life sentences for murder and other terror acts, along with 1,700 detainees, including some women and children that have been held in Gaza. And for every set of remains of an Israeli hostage, so every dead Israeli hostage that is returned, Israel will release 15 deceased Gazans' remains. Apparently, Israel has started hanging on to those things. They didn't at the beginning of the war, but now they realize, oh, wait, this is a bargaining chip, so they're keeping them. That's gross. Anyway, the plan calls for amnesty for Hamas members who will disarm and commit to peaceful coexistence. Now, I mean, come on. Really? You're going to believe them? So Hamas members who disarm and say, yeah, I'm Hamas, but I'll coexist from now on. I'm going to put a coexist sticker on my motorbike and commit to peaceful coexistence with the Israelis. Huh. Yeah. Okay. I mean, how many of you actually believe that would ever happen? I mean, it'd be great, but not likely. Thank you, whoever just sent that. Was that MM? No, Sherry. Thank you, Sherry. So, in addition to that, Israel will pledge safe passage for all those who have somewhere else to go besides Gaza and want to leave. Now, they can't just leave first and then figure out where to go. They already have to have that nailed down before they are allowed to leave Gaza, but they can leave Gaza if they want to. An immediate increase in humanitarian aid into Gaza, water, electricity, medical supplies, rubble removal, infrastructure, things like that. This is all written in the document. And UN-led aid distribution with Red Cross, Red Crescent, and other neutral institutions. Neutral institutions. Well, I'm sorry. I just said that with a straight face, and I'm embarrassed. I couldn't hold it. I'm sorry. I couldn't hold it with a straight face. Other neutral institutions like the United Nations. Okay. So what that basically means is that the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation would be out of work, right? And the Rafah crossing opened into Egypt. I'm not even sure that Egypt would be okay with that, but apparently they've agreed, everybody's agreed except Hamas. Now, as far as governance is concerned, they would agree to a temporary technocratic governance for Gaza by a Palestinian committee that is, get this, I mean, this is as so, you can tell a politician came up with this. A Palestinian committee supervised by an international board of peace chaired by none other than President Donald Trump. Oh, and Tony Blair, to name a few. President Trump went on to say, you know, I'm a real busy guy, but they all wanted me. I mean, they all wanted me to be on this. And it's important. Got to do it. So even though I'm busy and I got other things to do, I'll chair the Board of Peace, and we'll bring peace to a place that's never had peace in living memory or for thousands of years. Okay, this then would also include a Trump-led economic plan to rebuild Gaza that would involve experts who build Middle Eastern miracle cities like Neom over in Saudi Arabia, which I don't know if I would call that a miracle city. I might call it hell on earth, but okay. Neom, if you don't know, is the Saudi Arabian mega project that's being headed up by the Crown Prince, who decided that they were going to create a linear city, they call it the Line, out in the middle of the Saudi Arabian desert, in the middle of flipping nowhere. It actually goes right by the real Mount Sinai. Actually, I've been there. And this city of Neom is supposed to hold 9 million people. We don't know where those 9 million people are going to come from. They might actually be forcibly relocated out there when they get the thing built. This city is only 150 meters wide. The whole city for 9 million people. But it's, I don't know, 50 stories tall or something, and 150 kilometers long. So about 75 miles long. No cars in this city in the desert. It'll have one train that'll go back and forth. And if you need to get anywhere, you'll have to get on that train. But you won't need to get anywhere because you're going to be able to get everything you need within a 15-minute walk or elevator ride, maybe, of your tiny little cell that you live in, which is probably about the size of this room, something like that. That's the house that you get in the Line. So again, you couldn't pay me all the money in the world to move out there. It's going to be a study in human misery and spending lots of money to do it. But they're going to get people like that to come up with a plan to rebuild Gaza. And as I have said many times before, you can guess who's going to pay for all this. Take just 3 guesses. No, just one guess. You can get it in one guess. Who's going to pay for all of this? Or at least most of it. I'm waiting. Got to get over the hump here. But yeah. Who's going to pay for it? Come on. Who's going to pay? Who's going to pay? Friends of Tadpole says sounds terrible. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, us. There you go. You got it. Friends of Tadpole. First one. You got it. Us. And you could read that the U.S. or just us. Because you can bet the Palestinians are not going to pay for it. The Israelis might even end up paying for some of it. I hope not. But anyway, on to the rest of the 21-point plan. They are going to establish Gaza as a special economic zone with favorable trade terms with neighboring countries. So here in Panama, there's a special economic zone that's on one end of the Panama Canal. It's the canal free zone. And it's anything but free. It is closed to the public for the most part. It is a place where products that are brought from around the world and are going through the Panama Canal can be purchased duty-free. It's like the duty-free stores in the airport. And if you've ever shopped at one of those duty-free stores in the airport, Number one, what you'll notice is even though there's no theoretical duty, everything in there is still more expensive than it would be outside the duty-free store. Whether it's liquor or fingernail polish or Toblerone, you're still going to pay a premium for it because you're a captive audience. They got you in the airport. The other weird thing is that you can't go in there and buy so much as a candy bar without showing your passport and your boarding pass. Now, I'm not sure why that is. I don't know too many people who sneak into the airport to buy a candy bar from the duty-free store. And who cares, even if they did, really, you know? But no, you've got to prove that you're actually a traveler and you're actually in the secure area of the airport with a passport and a boarding pass, or they won't sell you your candy bar. I don't know what that's all about. And so all that to say that if they create a special economic zone in Gaza, you can bet that it's not going to be all that special. And it'll probably be absolute just hive of corruption. I mean, you're not going to, they're talking here like we're going to just rebuild everything in Gaza. And then the Palestinians are going to be model citizens and be all civilized and everything. But, you know, the Palestinians don't really know how to be civilized. That's one of the reasons why no Arab country in the Middle East wants them. Because they don't really know how to be civilized. They're kind of like Haitians that way. They're kind of like Somalis and Yemenis and people that just didn't grow up in a civilized country. You can't just import them to a civilized country and expect them to all of a sudden be civilized. They have to kind of learn a little bit. Now, that's not to say anything bad about Haitians or Somalis or Yemenis. I know lots of Haitians and love them very much. But the bottom line is that civilization is something that has to be learned, right? Now, on to the next version, or the next point in the 21-point plan is freedom of movement. So no forced departures. They can leave if they want to leave as long as they have someplace to go. And they're not going to be made to leave if they don't want to leave, okay? So on top of that, they will all agree to demilitarize Gaza, destroy all the tunnels, all the weapons factories, and there will be a supervised disarmament of the Palestinian people, and then a reintegration program for the militants who fought for Hamas. Are you skeptical of that, or is it just me? How does that work in practice? Demilitarizing Gaza, great. Destruction of tunnels, great. That's easy. Just blow them up. Supervised disarmament. So, okay, they put out, everybody turn in your guns now. Please turn in your guns. And all the Hamas fighters are just going to dutifully line up with their guns and turn them over. Okay, here they are. We're very happy to give back all the hostages, all the guns, all the things that have defined our lives ever since we were born. We'll just give all those up. No, they're going to go bury them out in the countryside somewhere, and then they're going to go and dig them up again and keep fighting. And a reintegration program, how does that work? How do you reintegrate these guys into Palestinian society? Palestinian society supports Hamas. So what are you reintegrating them into? Now, regional partners, that would be Qatar and Egypt, will guarantee compliance and ensure that Hamas and others don't break the deal. So all we have to do is trust Qatar and Egypt, and we're all good. Just trust Qatar and Egypt. They'll take care of all the rest. Okay. Then there will be an international stabilization force that will be deployed, and it'll be supported by Arab and international partners to train Palestinian police and secure Gaza's borders. Now, even though Benjamin Netanyahu agreed to this, what he agreed to didn't sound like what is actually in this document, okay? Because what Netanyahu said was it's going to look a little more like what I'm about to show you here. So let's take a look at this map here. So the blue line, the short blue line, is the area of Gaza, or that line is where roughly IDF troops are right now at this moment. Okay. And in the first stage of this, once the hostages are released, the IDF will pull back to the yellow line. And so as they pull back to the yellow line, then, and more of the facets of this plan are completed, then they will eventually pull back to the red line. And then finally, the IDF will pull back to the kind of hashed line there and maintain that buffer zone around Gaza, very small buffer zone compared to what Israel had in mind. So all we have to do is trust Hamas and trust Qatar and Egypt, and Israel can pull out and everything will be hunky-dory. Now, after the statement was made, when the reporters in the room were allowed to ask questions, one of them asked Prime Minister Netanyahu, does this mean that you're giving up on the objectives of the fight that you have been holding to since the beginning, since October 8th, 2023? And Netanyahu said, no, this represents a completion of those objectives. And I'm kind of going, wait a second, hang on, wait, let's back up. The objectives as I remember them from October 7th, as soon as Netanyahu came out, was we will destroy Hamas, we will remove Hamas from power, and we will regain all of our hostages. So if this peace plan goes through as written, they will get back all their hostages. Hamas will be disarmed but not destroyed. And let's see, get back all their hostages, destroy Hamas. So disarm Hamas is going to have to suffice for destroy Hamas, I guess, and ensure that Gaza will never be a threat to Israel again. It might be a bit of a compromise. That's all I'm saying. Maybe a bit. Now, do you think so? How do you feel about this? Do you feel like this could be a bit of a compromise on the part of Israel? Even the right wing of the political sphere in Israel is saying, okay, well, we're hopeful. We would love to see this pan out. And we'll get to what Hamas is saying about it in just a second. But so an international stabilization force would still have to be created, and you'd have to get countries to agree to send their troops to be a part of that. Now, thus far, all the countries that have been approached by that idea have said, we don't want our people over there. So I'm not sure who they would get to man this stabilization force. Maybe the Houthis. That probably wouldn't be a great idea. So it just says Arab and international partners. Maybe they get the Sri Lankans to do it or something. I don't know. Likely they would have, not likely. For sure, whoever decided to take part in this stabilization force would have to be paid to do so, and you can bet that money would be coming from the United States, almost certainly. And they're going to be training Palestinians as police, and it says, and secure Gaza's borders. So wait, you're going to train Palestinians to secure Gaza's borders? I don't think Israel would like that a whole lot. They don't tend to get along real well with the Palestinians, right? Okay, we'll just trust the Palestinians to guard their own borders. No. So it says Israel. The statement goes on to say Israel will not annex Gaza. The IDF will withdraw as the international security force establishes security with only a small perimeter around Gaza until Gaza is fully secure. That's what it says. So Israel's been saying for some time that they're going to take and hold and keep a buffer zone around Gaza, inside Gaza. And now that's in this draft of this plan that is going away. They will only hold the perimeter until Gaza is, quote unquote, fully secure. I guess they could probably say, yeah, it's never going to be fully secure, so we'll just be there forever. That's fine. Now, President Trump, I wish I could play all these for you, but I can't, dadgummit. I don't know why this thing's not working. President Trump is saying, this is all great, and all we lack is for Hamas to agree to the deal. And, well, Hamas has not agreed to the deal. So that's a problem. That's a bit of a problem. Now, I just got, right before I went live, so I didn't get a chance to stick it in the script or anything, Hamas's response to the Trump plan. So I'm going to go through that with you now. And this is as reported in Israel Real Time. A senior Hamas official told Reuters that the group has not yet received the Trump Gaza plan officially. Then he came back and said, no, we just received the the Trump plan officially from Egypt. And the Hamas is pointing out, look, we weren't part of these negotiations. So it wasn't even like shuttle diplomacy where, Egypt goes over and asks Hamas what they think, and then they go back and ask Israel what they think, and they go back and forth. It wasn't like that. This was just President Trump saying, the war's going to end. That's it. I'm declaring it. We got a ceasefire. And, Joe Biden tried that, tried to spring it on Israel. And we weren't too happy with Joe Biden about doing that. Israel wasn't too happy with Joe Biden about doing that. I'm not sure why. I mean, this plan is eminently better than the plan that Joe Biden came up with and just arbitrarily, unilaterally announced. But it's still not, Hamas has not agreed to it. The Prime Minister of Qatar just met with Egyptian representatives and received the proposal. A senior Hamas official called this plan a vague plan that promises nothing at all. Okay, so that's not encouraging. The leader of the Hamas movement, Mahmoud Mandawi, said, what happened is an attempt to suppress the international momentum and recognition of the Palestinian state. So, we've seen through it. All they're trying to do is suppress recognition of a Palestinian state here. Okay? An advisor to the head of the political bureau of Hamas said to the Arab television station, the resistance weapon is linked to the establishment of a Palestinian state. What is he referring to when he says the resistance weapon? What do you think he's referring to there? The resistance weapon sounds like he just accidentally said the quiet part out loud and referred to Palestinians in Gaza as a weapon. And that's exactly what they are. That's the whole reason for Gaza to exist. Gaza, they can't be self-sufficient. They can't make enough to support themselves. And so theoretically, there shouldn't be very many people living there at all. But they are there because they are the resistance weapon. Now, he goes on to say the release of Israeli prisoners is linked to the end of the war and the withdrawal of the occupation from Gaza. So again, he's reiterating what they have said all along. Hamas has said, we won't give up those hostages until Israel agrees to end the war for good, 100%, and pull out of Gaza without any conditions. The Houthis, because everybody wants to know what the Houthis think about this, obviously, because everybody cares what the Houthis think, said Trump's plan is unfeasible and aims to complicate Hamas's situation and place the blame on them. I mean, who would ever have thought to put the blame for what happened on October 7th on Hamas? I mean, come on, that's just not reasonable at all. Okay. Trump's plan is intended to stop the world's anger against Israel and to eliminate international solidarity with Palestine. So what they're saying is we need this war to continue because right now we're winning. We're winning in the court of public opinion, and we don't want the war to stop. That is where they are. That's not just the Houthis, that's Hamas as well. So on the other side, Israeli politicians are responding to it. The opposition party leaders, Yair Lapid, Yair Golan, Benny Gantz, and others say they accept and support the plan. And so that's a plus. Once the deal was announced, the shekel jumped by about 1.7%. And so the Israeli currency got a lot stronger because they would believe that if this goes through, it would mean a big boom in the Israeli economy. Obviously, finishing the war would be a great boon for their economy. Meanwhile, there's been very heavy fighting going on in Gaza, lots of pressure being put on Hamas, dozens and dozens of Hamas operatives being eliminated every day on the battlefield. They've had, as I said, the fighting has been fierce, though. They had 5 Israeli soldiers, IDF soldiers, that were grievously injured today, and about 5 or 6 more that were wounded in one particularly intense engagement in Gaza. Israel is striking upwards of 150 targets a day, and they are pushing further and further day by day into Gaza City. And that's starting to really raise some alarm with the people in Gaza who were supposed to have left and have not left. And now they're like, oh my gosh, the Israelis are actually going to do it. They're actually coming into Gaza City. And so, yeah, that's shouldn't be surprising. So if this is the real cherry on top for me. President Trump says, if Hamas does not accept this deal, then we will stand behind Israel and let them do what they need to do to finish the job, which is pretty much exactly what President Trump has been saying since day one. We stand behind Israel and we want them to do what it takes to finish the job. So President Trump is, I mean, not to be too critical here, but first of all, you and I both know President Trump is not a good speaker. He's not an eloquent speaker. He's not very good at giving speeches. He gives lots and lots of speeches because he thinks he's good at speeches, but he's not. I mean, he's just not. You can't make a case that President Trump is a good speaker. That said, we have to give him the benefit of the doubt because he just sort of blathers when he's speaking and he goes off on tangents all the time. And so people are like, oh, what exactly is he trying to get at here? What's he mean? And so maybe it's a little, worthless to try to parse the things that President Trump says in his speeches, especially when he goes off script, because even he doesn't really know what he's saying or going to say next. He just sort of talks. And I don't like that. I wish we had a president that was well-spoken, but I would rather have a president that acts well, that does the right thing, even if he can't talk very eloquently about it. And so we'll stick with Trump. All that to say, President Trump is saying, we will continue to stand behind Israel and let them put the pedal to the metal in Gaza and employ all of the righteous violence necessary to wipe out Hamas if Hamas does not do this. What makes me wonder and think maybe Hamas might actually agree to this proposal is that there's something going on in Qatar. Qatar, now this is not in writing. It's quietly being reported in a couple places, but I haven't been able to corroborate it yet. And that is that Trump said that Qatar had to agree that if Hamas did not sign this deal, that Qatar would deport all the Hamas leadership that was not wiped out in Israel's strike on Qatar a couple weeks ago. They will no longer be allowed to live in Qatar. They have to go live somewhere else. I'm not, again, I can't corroborate whether or not Qatar actually agreed to that. But if Qatar did agree to that, then I'm still not sure it's going to make Hamas sign, because where's Hamas going to go? They'll just go to Turkey, our NATO ally that has the 8th largest military in the world, made up of US weapons. That Turkey. Yeah. So I'm not sure. I mean, Hamas might be like, well, I got billions of dollars, the leadership. They got billions of dollars. They can make a nice life for themselves any place. They could go to the desert of Afghanistan and build a palace out there with the money that they've stolen from the aid that goes to Palestinians in Gaza. So I'm not really sure that would do it, but it might. Qatar might actually have, I guess we're going to find out how much pressure Qatar can bring to bear on the leadership of Hamas. But since those leaders don't live in Gaza and they're not subject to the misery that the Gazans are subject to, what real impetus is there for those Hamas leaders to actually give up, to give everything up, to end everything? They're the darlings of the media right now. Why would they do that? Okay. Anyway, then the last two things are, well, I think it's the last two. What was it? Last two, three, four. Last four things here. The document talks about an interfaith dialogue. Interfaith, I guess that would be Muslim and Christian and Jewish. Okay. Interfaith dialogue to promote tolerance and peaceful coexistence. Yeah, okay, great. We need more of that. We definitely need that. And you can be as skeptical as you like, but we definitely need more of that. Then the next point is a little sticky, and it's a pathway to Palestinian statehood. And it does say that there is only a pathway to Palestinian statehood if the reforms that are called for succeed, and conditions could allow Palestinian self-determination and eventual statehood. So it's not saying it's a sure thing, it's just leaving the door open to, leaving the door open, to use another metaphor, is essentially kicking the can down the road. It means we're not going to address this issue just now. We're just going to make sure everybody knows it's still on the table someday, somewhere, in some point, not in this administration. Okay, then the U.S. would help to mediate and facilitate dialogue between the Palestinians and the Israelis, looking for a political solution. How has that worked out so far? Because we've been involved. Steve Witkoff hasn't really got anything done yet, so I don't know why we think he would now. And then it promotes a long-term vision of a peaceful, prosperous Gaza that's integrated with its neighbors and totally at peace with Israel, where everybody is special and all the children are beautiful, and everything goes right all the time. So there is the 21-point plan. And it took 40 minutes to get through it. It's a long plan. Hamas, so far what we're hearing from Hamas is not promising in terms of whether or not they will agree. But if they do, we could see hostages being released in very short order. Now, there's another reason why I think this is probably not going to work, and that's because I'm not convinced that Hamas knows where all of the hostages are. So returning all the hostages might not actually be possible. There's been a lot of chaos, a lot of movement, a lot of things blowing up and falling down in Gaza over the last couple of years. The last time we got close to a hostage release, Hamas said, hey, wait, we need some time here because we can't find all the hostages. You realize Hamas is not holding all the hostages. Some of the hostages are being held by the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and some of them are being held by civilians in Gaza. And so Israel probably knows where some of them are. Hamas probably knows where more of them are, but I don't know if anybody knows where all of them are. And that might present a bit of a problem. Don't you think? Okay, now moving on to developments in the Red Sea. The Houthis blew up another ship. I don't know if you heard about that. Just breaking news as of just a little while ago. And so let me look at it. This is the ship that was blown up, that was traveling, I don't know, a couple hundred kilometers off the coast of Aden. And Aden is not a part of Yemen that is controlled by the Houthis, but the Houthis shot over Aden out into the Red Sea and blew up this ship. There's a picture here of the ship burning, and that's the only image we have right now. Does not look like it's in that bad a shape, but the word is, at least, that it is in danger of sinking, and the crew has abandoned the ship. So it means it's just floating around out there burning, and there's not anybody there to stop the burning. And if it burns enough, well, it's going to sink. The Houthis, thereby continue to make a nuisance of themselves. There is word, actually, Yair Pinto did a little video about this today, and we've heard this from the Mossad as well, or Shin Bet, that the Houthis are actually planning an October 7th style invasion of Israel. You got that right. And you might say, well, wait a minute. I looked at a map, and Yemen is really far from Israel, like 1,000 kilometers, 700 miles or something at the minimum. And so how exactly are a bunch of goat or camel herders going to invade Israel, like on the ground? Well, the word is that they are planning attacks from bordering countries. What countries border Israel? Jordan, Syria, Lebanon. So apparently the Houthis are planning to smuggle fighters into some of those areas that border Israel, and then at some point cut through the fence and attack Israel and, invade Israel. Now, obviously, this is a fool's errand. The fact that the Yemenis would need, or the Houthis would need, hundreds of thousands of fighters, very well armed and very well trained, to go up against the IDF with any reasonable hope of winning. That's more fighters than the Houthis have. They would need vehicles. They would need armor. They would need artillery. They'd need, you know, anti-aircraft rockets and anti-tank rockets, and all that stuff would have to be brought 1,000 miles across an enemy country, Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is between Yemen and the neighboring countries to Israel. And Saudi Arabia doesn't like the Houthis at all. So they would have to somehow smuggle all these people, hundreds of thousands of people, and all their weapons, and all their ammunition, and all their equipment, 1,000 miles across the desert of Saudi Arabia and not be noticed. And then they would have to array themselves along the border with Israel and hope that Israel didn't notice. And then they'd have to attack. What do you think the chances are of that actually happening? I think slim and none, and I haven't seen slim since high school. So, we could go on and hash that out for a lot longer, but the bottom line is it's a ridiculous plan. Now, maybe they smuggle 100 or a couple hundred fighters up into Jordan or Syria or someplace, and then make an attempt to break through the fence and create just havoc inside Israel, not take over Israel or defeat Israel or anything, just to kill people. But the Israelis are obviously on their guard for things like that, a little more than they were before October 7th. So it's highly unlikely that that would be successful on the part of the Houthis, other than they might be successful at martyring themselves. But that'd be about it. So my take on this peace plan put forth by Donald Trump is, number one, it's a good plan. It's probably the best plan that we have seen so far in this war. And Prime Minister Netanyahu agreed and said, this is the plan for the day after the war. That said, despite all of the rosy rhetoric that is coming out of the White House right now about, this is it, job done, we came up with the end, everybody's agreed to it, except Hamas. If Hamas doesn't agree to it, you can come up with all the plans in the world. That's not going to do one bit of difference. You might as well have just saved your ink, because Hamas is the one that is prolonging this war. And that's the final point. If it was just a matter of Israel agreeing to do something or other, this war would have been over a long time ago. But it's not. Hamas is the side that is keeping this war going. The war can end immediately if Hamas agrees to end it. Point, period, end of story. That's it. All right, so let's get over to our questions. And maybe we have some questions. I don't know if we have any or not. Do we have questions? I don't remember. Yeah, there's some. Whatever happened to never negotiate with terrorists, Michelle said. Well, see, that's the trick here, Michelle. President Trump isn't negotiating with terrorists. He's just declaring a ceasefire. He didn't even consult the terrorists on this. He just said, this is going to happen. And he's attempting, as he did in Russia and Ukraine and that war and some of the other things he's done, just to make it happen by the sheer force of his will, which is substantial, but probably not enough to end a 3,000-year-old conflict. Bianca says, is it so obvious that this new deal isn't going to, it is so obvious that this isn't going to work, so why did they come up with this? President Trump is trying to get a Nobel Peace Prize. That's why. Trey says, how can Hamas get all the hostages back if they don't have all of them? Good question. That's a very good question. We don't know. What do you think has a better chance? This 21-step plan to be agreed upon, or Narnia opening a portal to Earth and all of us having a nice holiday there? I'd almost go for Narnia. I think I'd prefer Narnia. Bobby Cat says, don't see this working out too good. do you think it's some kind of setup maybe? No, it's not a setup. It's just President Trump trying his best to make something happen. So I've gotten everybody to agree. You know what else he had to do in order to make this happen? It was kind of humiliating. He kind of threw Bibi Netanyahu under the bus because he forced Netanyahu to pick up the phone and call Qatar and apologize to them for the attack on their country by Israel a few weeks ago. Now, in that phone call, Netanyahu didn't totally apologize for the attack, but he did apologize for the Qatari security guard that was killed in the attack. One Qatari guy. Now, there are rumors that Israel will be paying that security guard's family a stipend for the rest of their life, making good on life insurance, that kind of thing. But it would have been pretty difficult if I was Netanyahu to make that phone call. But kudos to Netanyahu. He picked up the phone. He took it like a champ. He dialed and talked to the Qatari emirate and said, yeah, we're really sorry about blowing up all those terrorists in your country the other week. Yeah. If you'd get rid of those terrorists, it wouldn't happen again. That would be what I would want to say. I can guarantee you that we will not bomb your country again, so long as you don't harbor terrorists. Or next time, we'll just send assassins to take them out and not bomb the country. So there's that. There's always the Mossad, if all else fails. So, all right, that's all we got for today. I went longer than I hoped to, but not as long as I could have. So I hope you will like and share this podcast. I hope you will go to chuckholton.com and become a supporter over there. Keep us on the air. And now I'm going to go hit the gym. So don't forget to check out our sponsor, that day-long pre-workout by the thing that you do. What am I trying to say? Before you go work out, it's nitrous oxide. There we go. That's what I was thinking of. Nitrous oxide actually works when it comes to, it's a vasodilator. If you take too much pre-workout and you dilate those vessels too much, it makes you want to, pick up heavy things and throw them against the wall. But it is very good for improving blood flow, and that's what this product is all about. So hope that you will check it out. And it's called Blood Flow 7 from Juvenon. Go to the link in the description and check it out. All right. God bless you. We'll see you again next time. Take care.